Okay, so we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Elevated Frequency podcast and show. My name is Shannon Morse, and I'm here with my lovely co founder, Lisa Kirby. And we're pretty excited today to be diving into a topic which I think the whole collective is experiencing in many different ways, which is the rise of AI and also the integration of human connection. So, we're going to be diving into how this is impacting us in our coaching sphere, us as individuals, and how we kind of interact with businesses for ourselves and how we use AI for our personal lives and for coaching. And so, we're excited to dive in. So, Lise, this was your idea to have this conversation today. Do you want to share a little bit about like what was sparking the topic for you and what that looked like?
Yeah, it was so random, but yesterday I had purchased a product, a vitamin D lamp. I had it yesterday. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done with winter. I put in my time. I've kept a good attitude. And yesterday it's just been like 7 days in a row of dark skies and very cold for us in Texas. So I bought this vitamin D lamp and it gave me like a kickback like 3 times I tried to purchase it. And it was like, I swear it never works. I'm like, come on, card. I know you can do it. And it's always like flagged as, potential scammed or whatever.
Yeah.
But after 3 times, I'm like, all right, I need to speak to a human. Like, I'm done with computers right now. So I first called Bank of America and they were so lovely, so helpful. Just they're like, yeah, no problem. We see the charges right here. Yep, they're still processing. Like, here's what we would recommend, and gave me, a direct solution that actually I wasn't even thinking of. They're like, yeah, just if you can reach out to the vendor. So then I called the vendor and they were so lovely. It was just like, a small town, small business owned operation. And they were like, oh, we've got you. Let's go ahead. I can take your order over the phone. And I was just I was thinking on it and reflecting on it, like how lovely it is to speak to a human instead of working with, a chat bot all the time. And then like how quickly the problem was resolved,
Mm.
and how like nourishing the interaction was in this small way. It was just such beautiful customer service. And I just was so appreciative of that like moment that could have been, me getting on all frustrated and angry, but I wasn't at all. I was like, I am so grateful. I'm just so
Mm.
grateful to speak to a human and have someone help me. And of course, everything got resolved. But it made me think about, in this greater landscape as we evolve, what is this going to look like for us? And I've kind of swung between the pendulums. I don't know about you, Shan, of like, woo, this is so much, going down the rabbit hole of like, what does this mean? All this AI
Mm.
and technology, and moving away from like a fear about it, but how do we integrate it? So just
Yes.
curious to see like what's come up for you in thinking about some of the changes to come.
Yeah. Well, I love your example with talking to humans. I mean, it's funny with customer service. This is something that I just experienced recently with purchasing a car. And it was the same sort of thing. It's like the way everything unfolded was a little funny because the day I was going in to trade my other car in, my car wouldn't start. And so I was met with this like moment of like, huh, well, this is really bad timing, for this experience. And I just texted the dealership and I was like, hey, not a bot, but a person. And I was like, this is what's happening. And the guy that I was buying the car with at the dealership was like, oh, no problem. I'll send a guy up. He'll be there in 15 minutes. He'll jump your car and then you'll be done. And I was like, wow, what a great first impression, because not only was it snowing out, and I would not have been able to get a jump, that quickly on my own. But it was such an amazing way to just feel like I was being completely held in the experience. And I think that is something from a human to human customer service base that I don't know. I mean, I just can't imagine how we would necessarily replace that with AI, but I do see an incredible integration that we can have with both of them. And you and I were kind of just discussing that in the coaching realm, we've been working with Miri, which is an AI company, as modeling health coaching in that way. And what Miri has been able to do and what they've been able to build so far has been really, really cool. And you and I just got to see their latest demo, and I'm looking at it going like, damn, you guys, that is awesome. And I know that at the point right now, AI is only as good as the questions that we have for it. So if we don't know the questions to ask, then we won't get the information that we need. But a coach in our sphere of health and wellness, whether you're working with a doctor or a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a coach, finance, relationship, whatever it is, those people are operating not from pulling from databases, but pulling from their experience. And so what's so wild about, our group coaching, where we have these calls where so many people are in the calls and they're all sharing in their experience, is they will be able to give you insight that you didn't even know was an insight that you needed. And I think those are the two things. It's like we can use AI to extrapolate the information that we need to expound upon an idea that we have, but it's not going to give us the idea.
No,
Right. So
it's spot on.
but the collaboration that's possible between those two things is incredibly powerful.
Yes. Oh my gosh, and even just, like, the smallest examples, especially when we run our Awaken Your Nutrition program, it's like seeing the questions that come up from the other clients when they're asking you for, some of us who, like, haven't spoken up or reached out, we're like, "Oh my god, I would never even think to ask that," and it can be life-changing, and
Yes.
it's like, that is the power. I honestly, this is coming from someone who I've always been, a solo person when it comes to work and everything. Like, I hated group work. I did not like collaborating, any of this stuff. And now I'm like, I want to hear from everybody because we've we've been able to find this amazing benefit where the whole collective, the whole community in that container grows like exponentially and they learn exponentially. So it's like that aspect, like right now, cannot be replaced with AI. Like, because if you were using, Chat GPT as your coach, you might not be asking those questions. And so it really does give you this expanded experience that is right now not really able to replicate.
Totally. And who knows what'll happen. And I'm with you. For those of you who are coaches, I mean, I think Lisa and you and I have gone through different renditions in our mind of like, is this going to replace us? Like ultimately, are we going to become obsolete? And my sense is no, for the exact reason that we're talking about and how we like to go through and receive human touch experience from the services that we're looking to experience. Um, and one thing that I was noticing with like this recent car purchase is that it happened so fast. Like I wasn't even in the market for a car, just like happenstance, all of these things like were unfolding. And in communication with the dealership, in communication with my friend who was connecting me with the dealership, and then some other like marketing things that were happening also in tandem, there was a lot of communication and things that were happening at the same time. And after that, what I was reflecting on is that I loved being someone who could be relied on and could follow up with my word. That I said I was going to do something, and that's exactly what I was going to do. And if I couldn't do it for whatever reason, I would express that. And I think just in building the quality of human connection and what we're able to provide for people is that having that as something that that your coach is going to be able to do for you, or whatever service that you're in, it's like you have a container that you know is going to catch you. And I don't know how we will ever model that with something that is not a human being because of that heart connection, you know, because
Yes.
it's coming from a space that isn't it's not a machine connection. Maybe we're a different type of machine, you know, um,
Yeah.
electro electric in the light frequency machine. But yeah, so those are some of my initial thoughts of it. But also I see the beauty of collaboration.
Exactly, because it's not, so much of what we do is data driven. It relies on a lot of technology and various apps so that we can collect this this overall picture that really drives how we code and things like that. But then it's like this whole other side that is the other side to the body that's not just physical.
Yes.
And it really, that's the piece that really requires that high touch. I think what it allows us to do and what's exciting about it, and what like Miri, the health tech app, is catching on to, is we can use technology to kind of replicate some sort of element of that experience at a very, either free or low ticket price, to get
Mhm.
it out, get this amazing information out to the masses. But that always, it's like upgrading to VIP for a concert or festival. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am at the point in my life where like, VIP, check. I want a separate bathroom entrance. I don't want to, I'm too young to wait in line for 2 hours. Like, I just can't do it anymore. And, it's like that you're paying for a premium service to, like,
Yeah.
you're paying for that premium service for that high touch, VIP interaction. And I think that's not going to go away.
Mm.
Even if we have quasi-sentient human robots. I think there's gonna be, it's almost like the more tech we go, the more important it is to cultivate what defines us as humans and our
Mm.
human interactions. It's almost like we need to anchor further into, connecting with our intuition and, our own inner resources, so that, um, we can really distinguish what sets us apart.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I also feel like you just said intuition. And it's so funny because I don't know the true mechanism of how this works. But when I mean I know you know this, but for the proverbial when you're thinking about something and all of a sudden you see that thing come through your feed in social media where you're like contemplating a thought, you're not even talking about it necessarily, but all of a sudden, like it finds you. I think that we're going to have less and less, like, yes, the differentiation of what it means to be human, emotions, imperfections, compassion, like our nervous system, like how we relate to nature, how we don't relate to nature, how we take care of our bodies, like all of the layers of being human. And I also feel like there's this line that is becoming blurred in terms of our, like, where we start or stop and where technology begins
Yes.
and the communication that's happening. And I could almost say that, like, I might also experience the same thing with nature. And I'm kind of getting on like a little bit of a side tangent, but this is really where like the collaboration and things start to come in from like a universal consciousness perspective. It's like if everything is conscious, then everything is accessible for us to pull information from. And so that means that like both AI and the raven that comes to your window in the morning that you gain meaning from because your grandfather's crest had a raven on it, like both of these things are speaking to you and it's just the meaning that we make out of it.
Yes.
So in those circumstances, I feel like with AI right now, for those who really have like an innovative capacity within themselves, are going to be able to use it to expand on their incredible human potential. And it's going to be like the most amazing collaborative relationship. And what we have right now inside of our programs is that we're using technology to support the human learning experience of what it means to understand the signs and signals that are occurring in our body.
Yes.
And that's something that we aren't really seeing in the way where, like, with medicine right now, for example, and you're going to be talking about this and teaching people about this and awaken your cycles, which I so love. But you'll get like a blood panel done and they're like, here. And you're like, what does this mean? What
Yeah.
are all of these numbers and like the ranges? And I feel like every single range on a blood panel, you could just be like, yes, and 15 pages.
Totally. Yeah.
And with that kind of thing, it's like, again, you could actually put a blood panel in AI in Chat GPT, and you could be like, hey, can you decipher this for me? But if you don't know how to ask the next question, can you then give me a further caveat on what this means for a woman who's this age going through menopause? Then you won't have that information. So this is where the beauty of like technology and AI and a human who knows exactly what question you need to be asking come into like the most beautiful harmony, I think.
Oh, I 100%, like, even just on that lab topic, a lot of our clients have sent me their labs and everyone's off the charts low in vitamin D and kind of freaking out. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about vitamin D. And this is what you're not going to get from Chat GPT. It's like we only test for one metabolite of vitamin D and we have dozens in the
Mm.
body. And so if we're only testing for one, and your liver stores it in the winter and it doesn't show up in your bloodstream, what if you are not actually deficient? It's that your body is actually smart and it's relying on the hormone of winter, which is melatonin. So
Mm.
this kind of stuff you're not going to get necessarily from ChatGPT, maybe not yet, because it's a new view of the body. It's a much more integrative view of the body. And to me, that's that piece where we might, always be, 10 steps ahead of AI. Maybe not, we're open to what's to come. I think having an open mind and not being in a fear state of it is key though, because if you look back at history, I love reading old historical books and watching documentaries because you can see like every generation, any new piece of technology or anything new that comes out, there can be contraction and fear. It's going to
Mm.
take over. People were freaking out about radio and oh my God, and then TV. And it's like all these layers of technology that have come. It hasn't turned into this horrible sci-fi story that, we've created. So I think
Mm.
that key of like working with it and keeping that mindset of how do we integrate this and use it together, not be so fearful of like, we can never use this and it's, evil, and just try
Right.
and live these like pure human lives in modern society. I mean, that's definitely one way. I'm like not knocking on that at all. I see the beauty in that,
Mm.
100%. But if there's a way to integrate both, I mean, it
Mm.
can be really, really powerful. I think the other thing too, you touched on, Shan, when you're especially using like a learning language model and when you're asking questions, like the one thing that we've been focusing on just recently is sometimes information is not what you need. So if
Yes.
you are going in and over and you're trying to solve something with your rational mind or brain,
Mm.
and all you're doing is getting more and more information, but you're not it's either information overload, you don't have the right information uniquely for you, or you
Mm.
can't implement it. You don't have the skills and the mentorship of, okay, how do I take all this information and actually like embody it and make it these, new lifestyle changes and make habits out of it.
Yes.
You're just going to be stuck in that loop of information land. So, do you
Yes.
want to touch on just bringing the nervous system aspect and how we've integrated that most recently into our coaching because of this we've seen as an issue?
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for bringing up that point. It's so true, because when we are in, so as you're saying, like recently, both you and I have dove into more detailed education around the nervous system. And I just recently finished a practitioner training from an institute called Neo-Somatic Emotional Release. And that's been wonderful. And just understanding that our nervous system is at the forefront of like so much that we experience. And if we're at a heightened state of our nervous system, meaning that we are in that state where cortisol is high, we need to take action, we need to run, we need to, whatever, flee or fight. When we are in that state, which sometimes is very useful, we will likely have a different relationship with information. If we are in a heightened stress state, and when we experience clients who come to us and really just have so much information that they go into freeze. So they go into that freeze state. It's like they can't take any more. They have no idea where to start. And just as you're saying, giving them more information isn't the solution here. Actually, the solution is to take them out of their brain and move them into a more parasympathetic nervous, like the little parachute that needs to catch them, and to be like, let's just move into your body, right? Let's connect with your breath. Let's allow your body to share its deep wisdom, and actually notice what might be right for you here. And that corresponds with what food might be right, what kind of stimulus and music might be right, what kind of movement might be right for you. Does your body need sunshine? Do you need to stay more hydrated? Are you actually thirsty instead of hungry? Like, let's kind of bring you out of your logic and move into the divine wisdom of your physical body and see what's available for you there. So I think that point cannot be impressed enough, especially as we have more and more people coming to us. And when we do like our initial consultant calls, wow, I can't get that word out. Our initial consultation calls, I would say 90% of the people who come to us are like just so overwhelmed with information that they have no idea what to believe. They don't know where to start. They don't know what's specific for them. And that leaves people either very frustrated, throwing money at things that like will come through their feed that are short, quick term fixes that have very good marketing. I'm totally not a victim, but I am someone who's been there too. I'm like, ooh, what's that? I'll go down the rabbit hole and all of a sudden new stuff arrives at my door. And I'm like, what is this? What was I thinking? Usually happens in the evening for some reason. Anyways, I digress. So anyways, I think that can't be expressed enough when we have too much information, that's actually not going to be the answer as well. So thank you for that. Yeah.
And I think just that last piece too is distinguishing like or re-emphasizing, we talk about it a lot, of what is a stress state, because we talk to so many women in particular, and some men too. I've talked about this on a recent consult call where they don't even know that they're in a like 24/7 stress state. I've certainly been there and didn't realize it until I started working with a one-on-one coach, which would be you. And I'm like, oh, I'm a little stressed out, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not a feeling. It's a physiological state. It's your sympathetic nervous system activated chronically, and you can get addicted to it. You can get addicted to the cortisol always, flowing. And so we may not even know that we're in that loop. And when we're in that sympathetic state, we have that narrow, like literally your eye, your vision narrows, your thinking narrows, because everything's like laser focused. Let's what do we need to do? Run away from this lion, blah, blah, blah. So then we can't even open up to the wisdom that's available to us. We're just laser focused, and we're looking for that one magic bullet solution. And it's never that. It's never one thing. I think I was just thinking about recently, I'm like, gosh, what kind of rubs me the wrong way, and kind of some of the functional nutritionist and just functional medicine world is a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have just become a replacement of Western meds. So instead of prescription drugs, they're selling you supplements, And
Ah,
so
yeah.
many people I've talked to recently, they've just moved into that. So again, it's more information, more data, more things that are not like getting under the root. And so
Yes.
I think again, it's that human piece, that mentorship, that coaching, our experience in our own bodies, and then being able to replicate this process that helps thousands of clients so far discover that same thing that we have discovered for ourselves is like, okay, there's something deeper here that,
Mm.
as we know of now, is cannot be replicated by just information and technology
Yes.
alone.
Something that you just said, and I forgot to tell you about this earlier. So I had a consultation call yesterday, and this ties into exactly what you're talking about. And I was sharing with her that one of the things that we do inside of our programs is we are really working to help you to understand your body's own biofeedback, your body's own signs and signals, that there's no TMI within our containers. We talk about bowel movements, we talk about where we store body fat, we talk about hair, skin, and nails, we talk about energy levels, we talk about symptoms of PMS or menopause. We talk about strength and what time training might work for men, the kind of cycle that they go through out of 24-hour period. Like, we're looking at the true holistic aspect of individuals, and through using technology, we're helping them to track their intake, track their training, their stress, their sleep, all of these things, and then help them to identify how their body is communicating where they're in or out of balance. So I was sharing this with her in this call, because when we do this with a coach who can reflect back, this is where the imbalance might lie. Let's try to change this. Let's see how your body responds. And then you will know this for like your body's wisdom, which is specific to you for the rest of your life. And that's like the most incredible gift. So her response to me was, I don't really know if I'm aware of the signals my body's giving me. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I understand that. And we hadn't talked about this yet in the call. And I was like, I imagine you've had a very high stress, high performing job for a couple of decades. Is that accurate? And she's like, oh yeah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I would estimate that you've probably been running in kind of like a high cortisol state for the majority of that time. Would you agree? And she's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course, like super high functioning, like always on the go, etc. And so I said, so it's very regular that if you are in that sympathetic, like you're in a chronic state of activation, that you will not be connected to your body. You will not be able to go through the ebbs and flows and have that space in between where you can actually move and to go like, oh my God, what am I feeling? And an interesting thing that I've started to witness is that when we are actually like sick, that our body signals are higher,
Mhm.
easier to hear. It's easier to go like, wow, my body really wants this right now. Like, it wants like chicken noodle soup, and like all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, all these signals are amazing. And like, I'm hot and like my hands are cold and all of a sudden you're just really connected with what their body's language. Um,
Yes.
and so that whole thing was just like so fascinating. So expounding on what you were just sharing, yeah, I think we're just talking ourselves through how this isn't a replacement, it's a collaboration.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the signs and signals when we're in that state of being, it's everything is just overridden because you're everything's like we have one focus here, execute. Hunger,
Yes.
that's not happening. And
Yeah.
then what's interesting is it can kind of manifest as like anxiety or anger, it can kind of turn into these other things while you're in that heightened state. And then you might not get the hunger signal until 5 p.m. when you finally shut it down, maybe later.
Yes.
And then you're like, "Oh my god," and want all the things, That's kind of the modern human eating pattern that we've all adopted, which is honestly much more detrimental for women. It'll show up, as it'll have more of a negative impact earlier on women, but it will on men as well. So
Yep.
it is absolutely we're integrating the technology with the knowledge that we have in our process, And it really is such a powerful pairing, I mean, it's evident in what's happening with our clients and the amazing results that they're getting for life.
Absolutely. I'm actually excited. I'm excited about the pairing because what it allows for us to do and how it allows for us to show up and support with that full, very grounded container, to basically be that like catch-all for clients is amazing because there's so much more that can be done with the technology that we have. So we're not really stuck in the weeds. So we can actually show up and be in that superhuman connection space, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So as we're talking about this, I'm actually getting more excited.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we'll wrap up for now. I absolutely loved this conversation. You're frozen on my side. I hope you're not frozen. Oh, I think we might be back.
Weird.
But I know. Thank you everyone who was open and available to join either live or in the future. If you guys have thoughts or opinions or concerns or questions, we would love to hear about them. And I think that's it. Anything you want to sign off with, please?
Just that we are starting our next Awaken Your Nutrition cohort for men and women. We have 2 different cohorts, and that kicks off soon. So if you are watching this on social media, just send us a message or comment, apply, and we'll get you all the information you need so you can get started.
Thank you. And we have like the most awesome setup for the group that's starting our first like Awaken Your Nutrition program starting this year. We have nervous system support, one-on-one support for all individuals who come in. We have like so much holistic dynamics that are coming in, and we're just going to keep adding. So I'm very excited about where we're going this year. I'm so excited about the people that we're attracting, who's going to be in the group, and just the way that we're able to up level as a collective. So this is going to be awesome.
Yes, can't wait.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.